Am I the a-hole for refusing to stop accepting alimony from my ex-husband, even if it's putting a strain on his current relationship? Husband and I were married at 19 and officially divorced at 45 5 years ago. Before the divorce was finalized, I was given a lump sum payment, and he was ordered to pay me several $1,000s a month every month for the next 26 years. Now he wants me to start giving the money back to please his fiancée, since she apparently sees it as him keeping a connection with his ex, and money that he should be spending on his future instead of his past. But it's court-ordered, so I don't understand the logic there. And honestly, I don't really want to. In fact, I already said I wasn't going to. And that is in part due to the fact that I'd like to give him another middle finger while I have the chance. Basically, it's just to spite him. But my sister says I'm wrong for not moving on, since he's already paid me enough money the last 5 years to retire on, not to mention the initial lump sum. Edit. Divorce was initiated by him after he decided his personal assistant would make a better partner than me. Now for the top comments. Not today home, but personally, I would send a thank you note every month to your ex and his girlfriend with photos of what you do or plan to do with a month's money. I'm polite that way. This is an excellent idea. However, I would make sure to give some to charity and share all the good his money is doing in the world. Maybe to a charity that he really hates, but that still does good work. Or to a political candidate he opposes. Not today home. Stick with a court order. If you start with one exception, and this is a big one, he's going to keep demanding more. However, I would suggest saving as much as you can. I wouldn't put it past him to just stop paying and force the issue back to court, or to try to fudge a bankruptcy to get out of paying, or otherwise try to squirrel out of this. Have money ready for a lawyer if needed. This is the thing to do. If you can live off your income, do so and save all the payments for your retirement. Are you fully funding your IRA, an emergency, a new car, or just to have to feel financially secure? Not today home. Alimony was awarded because it's what's owed to you to maintain your lifestyle in the time you spent with the a-hole during your prime earning years. The only change I'd make is accepting a lump sum equal to the next 21 years plus interest today, because it would cut all ties with him. That way, his fiancée gets what she wants. A less wealthy man with no connections with his ex. That's what my uncle did. He was ordered to pay alimony, which I thought was deserved, but I digress, for about 15 years after his divorce. Him and his ex negotiated a lump sum option, and they threw a new card to get her to agree. It was the full amount plus a conservative interest, and they were happy to cut ties and move on. My former aunt was free to get remarried without it affecting her alimony, and they have a cordial relationship now that their kids are all adults. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for saying I prefer sushi to children? Okay, so straight to it. My husband and I, both in our early 30s, have been together for over a decade and made the decision to not have kids. I like kids. I have nieces and nephews. We just don't want them for our own reasons. He had a vasectomy which only a few people know about. Our families are aware we don't want kids, as they've asked this before during different major life events. Our wedding, for instance. We recently bought a 3-bedroom home with a nice yard and a nice area. Excited to show our new home to family and friends, major upgrade to our previous home. We hosted a housewarming. During the party, one of my sibling-in-laws, Alex, made a few indirect comments about all the space, and kids would love it in our house, etc. Eventually, they asked point blank when we were having kids. I made a light-hearted joke about it, which is my go-to for this question. Oh well, I like sushi too much to have to give it up for a pregnancy. Plus not drinking for pregnancy and breastfeeding? No thanks. I try to make it very light-hearted and laugh it off, but most people just laughed along. That seemed to anger Alex, and I was told that children are a joy, and a good mother puts her kids before everything else. I agreed. Children are a joy. I like spending time with the nieces and nephews. And obviously, I can't be a good mom if I chose sushi over kids, so I just won't be a mom. Paraphrased. Still trying to brush it off in a gentle way, because I'm not trying to start a fight by telling them to stop asking in front of everyone, because I know my tone will be seen as rude and abrasive. We move on, but Alex is still annoyed, and making little comments in their group about how flippant I am about it and how when it finally happens, then I'll understand. My husband heard this and said jokingly, well, if she gets pregnant, that'll be a problem for the divorce lawyers. That seemed to piss them off more, but they stopped. With holidays coming up, we have not been invited to Alex's usual Halloween bonfire. When husband spoke to his parents, they told him Alex was annoyed that we were so careless and callous about our child-free status, and to say what we did. And they realized we had taken permanent steps to ensure we never had kids. That we know they had to do IVF to have kids, etc. And we were a-holes to just not care. I feel bad because they did do IVF and lots of fertility treatments to have their kids, and even then they still had a few miscarriages. Can't imagine wanting kids and struggling to have them and then deal with miscarriages. But at the same time, I'm so tired of justifying living with my life how I want. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. A good mother puts her children before anything else is a really weird thing to say to someone who isn't even a parent. Your non-existent children have more rights than you. An adult and a very much alive woman. Alex, probably. Way too many kids in foster care to force women to give birth to children they don't even want. This thinking makes me sad. Just because they had difficulty having children don't mean they get to judge you for choosing to not have children. Regardless, they also don't get to bring up the topic that act hurt when you give an honest, non-offensive answer. I empathize with people who have difficulty having children, but that empathy stops the moment they start acting like the rest of us are obligated to have kids, simply because of their problems. You don't get to be mad or offended by someone else's choice not to have kids, and especially not when you're the one who keeps bringing the issue up in the first place. Not today, home. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Alex was being nosy and rude, and you treated their obnoxious intrusion into your personal private lives with far more grace than it really deserved. I was trying to be polite so I didn't embarrass them in front of both our families and friends. My friends did say I should have just been rude and made them feel like jerks for prying. In a less large social setting, I'm faster to shut it down. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my ex that if he's so concerned about Christmas, he can buy our daughter her gifts? I have a 14-year-old daughter, Alice. Her father, John, and I are separated. And as far as dads go, he's not the best, but he claims he tries, despite not having so much as sent her a birthday card since she was 6. I recently injured myself and I'm currently not fit for work, so I'm now getting disability payments that is about 3 times less than what I was earning in my job, so we're on a pretty tight budget, and I'm not able to save for Christmas this year as I normally do. My daughter told me she wanted a Nintendo Switch and a few games for it for Christmas back in August. I asked her around this time to start saving. And even though she's disappointed that it's not a viable option anymore, she understands that we're on a budget and that she needs to choose something on the lower end of the price spectrum. She managed to find a second-hand 3Ds that comes with games, including ones she wanted for the Switch, for a really good price, and she's happy with that. She casually mentioned to her father, in one of the video calls he actually answered, that she wasn't able to get her original gift idea, but she found a more cost-effective one, and she's happy with it. He asked to speak to me, and when my daughter brought me out her phone, he started berating me, saying I needed to return to work so my daughter can have the Christmas she deserves. I told him, John, you haven't seen Alice in person in 2 years, and you haven't sent her a gift, a card, or even a happy birthday in nearly a decade. If you were so concerned about our daughter getting the Christmas she deserves, maybe you can pay the court-mandated child maintenance that you haven't paid in 5 years. Or you can buy the presents yourself since you claim to be earning $1,000 a week. He hung up the phone and texted my daughter saying not to call him for a while as he's extremely angry. She's glad I stood up to him, but she's upset that he doesn't want to speak to her and is angry with me because I caused that. Am I the a-hole? No. Who the hell does he think he is talking to you like that when he doesn't even do the bare minimum? Also, he's going to punish your daughter because you called him out? What a prick. Not the a-hole and neither is the daughter, even though the dad is trying to pin it on her as well. You need to get with the courts and make sure they know he isn't paying. They know, but he lives in a different country, so not much can be done. That sucks. I'm sorry. Definitely have a talk with your daughter, though. She's 14. She knows it's not your fault, but she's angry and can't express her anger at the actual person she's mad at. More than just having a talk, see if you can get her in therapy. This might not be the budget currently, but there might be a school counselor. Or once you can work again. My husband has an absentee father, and it does damage, and she could use some help with that. I don't know if your daughter is in a place to hear this yet, but it is probably time you have a talk with her about gaslighting and victim blaming. Not that she is guilty of it, but her father's using it and she's falling for it. She should be able to see that you did not cause it, and recognizing that kind of toxic behavior is an important life skill. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my half-sister that my daughter isn't named after her? My parents gave me and my sister's L names. Say Lisa, Laura, and Lucy for an example. I had minded my husband's daughter when we were 19, and 2 years later, my family learned that my dad had another daughter, our half-sister who was 6 years older than us. Half-sister was Mara. When Mara started getting to know everyone better, she started to feel left out because of the whole name thing, and she told us she was changing her name, which happened to be my daughter's name. I wasn't happy, but I also wasn't in a position to tell her not to. But now she likes to tell people my daughter was named after her. I asked her to stop saying it a few times, but she never gave up saying it and didn't even acknowledge that I had asked her to stop. Then a couple of weeks ago, she brought it up around my kids for the first time, and I told her to stop. That I never named my daughter after her. That she chose the name for herself after my daughter was born, and after we met her. That she needs to stop saying it or we're going to have bigger problems. She said I was always the sister she felt the least close to, and she thought it would bring us closer together. But I told her she went about it in the wrong way. That we were hardly even acquaintances when she chose to do it, never even spoke to me, and then expected me to just go along with her lies. She was upset and called me a witch. My dad told me I shouldn't have treated her that way, and that it should be honored she did what she did instead of being annoyed by it. He also told me I'm going to make it harder for us to be closer. I told him that isn't the most upsetting thing to me in the world. Both say I was too harsh when I corrected her so strongly. Am I wrong? Not today, home. You are simply saying the truth. Your half-sister is lying to herself and everyone around her. You are correcting her. I simply can't understand that there are people like that. I've got people like that from my life because I can't stand liars, especially when the lie isn't necessary. It's not even a white lie. It's merely to inflate her importance to the family. Not only is she lying, but that is creepy AF. How do you just take your niece's name and then claim someone named a kid after you? I would have kept my distance if someone, sibling or not, did that. Not today, home. It boggles my mind that people like that exist. I think that if I tried something like that, my soul would immediately vacate my body from sheer embarrassment. I think I've read almost this exact story before, except with a trans woman instead of a stepsister who feels left out. In any case, I'll vote the same way. Not today, home. And trying to claim someone who has had a name longer than you is named after you is ridiculous. Half-sister, we share parents biologically, but I get your point. And yeah, it's just weird and annoying. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not housing my brother's mistress? My brother, 51 male, his mistress is 47 female, and niece 1-year-old. Backstory. My brother had an affair on his wife, and they have 5 kids. After quitting his job, they moved in with his in-laws. My brother's mistress got pregnant and she also decided to quit her job. Then she was evicted from her previous rental, leaving my niece homeless. My brother's wife decided to try to work things out, and I ended having a lot of family pressure to allow my brother's mistress and my niece move into my rental to try and create a stable environment for my niece. Eventually, I agreed to allow them to move in, with a couple of conditions. 1, pay $500 each month. Most of it goes to the cost of the utilities. 2, no dogs. The mistress quickly agreed since the rent is extremely cheap, and let us know she will be starting her new job soon. The first month I received half the rent, then the last 5 months, nothing at all. It's become a burden for me to keep them there as I'm working additional hours to cover the expenses. My brother's mistress never went to work. I have tried to talk to them, trying to work things out, but it's going nowhere. So I gave his mistress a 30-day notice to move. During that time, I found out she's pregnant with baby number 2. My brother's wife kicked him out and he moved into my rental with his mistress. They didn't leave after the 30-day, and they ignored my attempts to talk to them. So I served another 5-day notice. Still no reply. So I went to the court and filed for an eviction. Since they were served, my phone has not stopped buzzing. Just about every family member is called upset. My dad told me to finish it because he feels like my brother needs to man up and take care of his kids, both from his wife and mistress. My dad also told me to put my kids first. My mom, however, is livid. She told me that I would be responsible if my niece and a new baby will be taken away by CPS. She said my kids are old enough to understand mommy working extra hours in the name of supporting family. She feels like I should continue working overtime and paying for their expenses until the new baby arrives in 7 months. Am I the A for kicking my brother's pregnant mistress to the curb? Now for the comments. Not today, home. Mom, I am not supporting my brother's infidelity and lack of responsibility. I have my own priorities and I'm not going to take food and money from my own kids to support his kids for him. Supporting family also means not betting someone else behind your wife's back. Not bringing two illegitimate children into the world when you have no means to support them, but not expecting handouts from a sibling because you lack the human decency to work. If you feel so strongly about needs and a new baby, then please call CPS and have them placed with you. You can't just as easily provide a home for them while brother and his mistress get their act together. But I have done enough and I won't have you lecturing me on helping when you've done jack squat. So new family rule, take care of your kids. That means I'll take care of mine. And since brother is your son, Mom, you take care of him so he can take care of his kids. Not today, home. And I'd be telling Mummy dearest that if she feels that strongly about it, she can house them and pay for them herself. He's her son after all. And if CPS take the niece and baby, it's because they're bad parents. If your mom feels so strongly, she can house your brother, his mistress, and their babies. Not today, home. Start blocking numbers on your phone and give your mother's number to your brother and tell him she volunteered to look after him and his baby mama and his litter of kids. If your mom complains, tell her you only signed up to look after your kids. End of. Not today, home. And if your mom is so concerned about him, she should get another job and pay for brother and his inability to keep it in his pants. Or she can let them move into her house. Your kids need their mom. Am I the a-hole for requesting my best friend be at the birth of my child instead of my husband? So I, 25 female, have been best friends with Eric, 25 male, since we started kindergarten. He was there throughout everything, even spied from the next table when me and my 26 male husband went on our first date, and I did the same when he started dating his wife. I was the first person he called when his wife found out she was pregnant both times, and even while she was in labor, I helped him by text. So April and I suspected I was pregnant, he was with me when I read the results of my test. Even helped me plan a cute way to tell my husband. We have been each other's rock, and I couldn't think of anyone better than him and my husband to be there while I'm in labor. But unfortunately, if things keep happening the way they do, I'll be only able to have one person in the room with me, and that person will be Eric. He was on board, and I planned to tell my husband when I knew for sure. At the moment, it's normal rules, but obviously things can change over a bug issue at any time. But Eric's wife found out and showed up at my house, screaming for a paternity test because she believes the baby's his. It's 1000% not. My husband was in shock and told me he's sick of third-wheeling our relationship, then packed a bag then left. Eric also sent me a text saying he wants to be with me when I go into labor, and he will be limiting our contact from now on. I'm honestly in shock at the events and have gotten so much hate. Now for the comments. You're the a-hole. Do you even love your husband? Is that his child too? I feel like your friend is the father if you'd rather want him in the room. There are definitely times when having someone other than the father of the child be in the room is okay. For example, abusive, no longer together, can't handle the sight of the process, generally squeamish, not a very good comforter, etc. Those things happen. But there's certainly a list of okay substitutes and not okay substitutes. A doula? Sure. Your mom? Go right ahead. Your platonic opposite sex best friend when you're still married? Laughing my butt off. You're the a-hole. Platonic opposite sex BFF, whose wife thinks your baby is actually an affair baby? Massive, you're the a-hole. She went nuclear for a reason. Your husband has a third person in the marriage. Eric. Eric's wife has a third person in the marriage. You. Look, I have a guy best friend and he's literally like my brother, and I tell him lots of things and he's a huge cheerleader of mine. However, I also have boundaries with him. I wouldn't be telling him I was pregnant over my own significant other first. I wouldn't be expecting him to be calling me as his wife was in labor. Like really, get your wife to the hospital, duh. You all can be close, but clearly both of your spouses feel like you have overcrossed a lot of lines. Why did you even marry your husband? Why did Eric even marry his wife? You're the a-hole. This comment is spot on. The part that jumped out to me was that Eric has decided to limit contact in order to maintain his marriage. That means he understands that there is a line you don't cross when it comes to marriage versus friendship. But she is still clueless. If she had said that her husband will be an absolute nightmare in the delivery room based on past experience, I would kinda understand. If not, she is taking away a significant life experience from him. You're the a-hole. Holy moly. You always have the right to choose who you want in the delivery room with you. However, If you choose someone that is your life partner, what does that say about your relationship with him? What does that say about how you feel around them? If you don't feel safest and or trust the individual who you are married to and father of your child, then what exactly are you doing here? Is husband your beard, a sap who you can use as a shield to deflect any accusations of having an emotional affair with Eric in front of his wife's face? Your husband is right, and ironically, he is literally the third wheel in his own marriage. Yuck. I'd seriously contemplate things at this point too. But I feel so awful for your husband. He deserves to be with someone who puts him first and wants him there for the birth of his child. I hope your future ex-husband finds someone who wants to be a partner in life and parenting, because you obviously don't. Sorry, but I think you're getting everything you deserve. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting my parents to be anything more than guests in my wedding? I, 27 female, am the only child of an only child, my mom, and a son of a single woman, my dad, and we are firmly middle class. When I was 8, my aunt, her husband, and my nana were in a fatal car accident. As a result, my cousins, 6 male triplets, were taken in by my parents. Up until then, my mom was a teacher, but with the kids and all they needed, intensive therapy and constant reassurance, she quit her job to be a stay-at-home mom. My dad got a small inheritance from my nana that he used to pay off the house. As for my aunt's life insurance and her husband's, they were split into 3 and put in college funds for my cousins. From ages 8 to 13, my parents were too focused on my cousins that they forgot they had a daughter, and the money was so tight that I had to quit all of my hobbies, because my cousins' hobbies were expensive and that they needed to make sure that they maintained the same standard of living for them. At 13, my maternal grandparents sat me down. They said that my parents drained my college fund, and that they were threatened by my parents of no contact if they tell me, but that I was old enough to keep the secret. They also said that they will be giving me what they could when I go to college. I guess that was it for me. I stopped seeing my parents as anything more than an egg and sperm donor at the point. Fast forward to when my cousins started going to college, and I guess my parents remembered that they had a kid, but I wasn't interested in having a relationship with them beyond an occasional phone call. Now I am about to get married. I asked my grandpa to walk me down the aisle and my grandma to take on the traditional mother of the bride role for me. Then, because I'm direct like that, I handed my parents their invites in person and told them that they are welcome only as guests or not at all. They got angry, and when they asked why, I just laid it out on them. And now they're trying to apologize, but it is too little too late for me. My cousins contacted me trying to make me take it back, offered me what was left in their college fund since they didn't know that I didn't have one, to make it fair. I refused, of course. It's more the emotional neglect that hurts, not the money. But a friend said that I was too harsh, that I should forgive and forget. So am I the a-hole? Your parents are lucky you invited them. I hope you can have separate relationships with your cousins though. We do have a relationship. I never held it against them and they are genuinely nice people. I'm so sorry. This should never have happened to you. But I'm so glad you have your grandparents. Not today, Hall, and I'm happy you're honoring them on your day. Congrats on your upcoming wedding. I hope it's a beautiful day. I do have to add, your cousins didn't know, so maybe at some point you won't be mad at them, if even you are. Thank you for the congratulations, and I don't hold it against my cousins. They were actually going to be part of the wedding, but after some discussions, they preferred not to smooth things with the parents. Not today, Hall. It was really nice of your cousins to offer to make things fair, but it's not on them. They couldn't control what happened to them or how your parents treated them. That was your parents' job. It's understandable that they prioritized your cousins at first to make sure they were all settled in and recovering, but lying to you about your college fund and using it behind your back was awful, to be honest. Ultimately, they'll have to live with it as it is your wedding and your choice. Honestly, I don't even care about the college fund. It was the lack of care, making me give up my bedroom, refusing me therapy because I didn't need it, not like your cousins. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my sister that she has always had it easy? Me, 25 female, and my sister, 25 female, were very close when we were young, but things changed when our father passed away and our mother had to raise us alone. She, according to me, has always favored my sister over me. It wasn't blatant favoritism, she still cared for me and loved me, but my sister was allowed to go to school dances, dye her hair, wear expensive makeup, buy expensive dresses, things which I wasn't allowed to do. My sister changed, and during middle school she became the popular girl, while I was the nerd. She often ridiculed me during school and I complained to my mother about this. She comforted me but never really did anything about the situation. All of this built up resentment for my sister inside me. Every day when I went to school, I had to face her torment. However, I convinced myself that what she was doing right now didn't matter, that I would end up happier in life because I worked way harder than she did and would end up successful. I got into my dream college after school, and my mother was really happy for me. But at the same time, my sister had failed in some of her subjects and had to repeat the year, so my mom didn't want to go out for dinner to celebrate since it would upset my sister. Fast forward a couple of years, and my sister is getting married to a very rich man. I was very happy for her and attended her wedding. I had a job and was doing pretty good for myself financially, but was under a lot of stress due to high working hours. While I was talking to my sister, she said to me and her friends how sad it must be for me to have worked so hard for all those years and still be so unhappy with my life, while she was enjoying hers. She told me that I should have worked smart like her instead of working hard. I got very angry at her and told her that failing school and then deciding to drop out of college was not working smart, and that not everyone was as lucky as her to be born with a pretty face and get married to a rich guy they met on Tinder, even though she herself was a loser. After that, I left. Later, I got a call from my mom telling me that my sister started crying after what I said to her, and that it ruined my sister's special day due to my jealousy. She told me not to show my face to her before I was ready to apologize. What my mom said was definitely true. My mom's subtle favoritism towards her popularity in school, the fact that she has a husband and I'm lonely, and the fact that I have to work hard all my life and still work 12 hours a day to earn money, while she gets served everything on a silver platter while sitting at home, has made me very jealous of her. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. She'll be divorced in a few years, and you'll have all the success you worked so hard for. Your happiness isn't dependent on someone else's misery, but on taking ownership of your own life and being satisfied with who you are and what you're able to accomplish. Not the a-hole. Your sister rubbing her success in your face while demeaning your hard work is horrible. And like the previous comment said, she will likely be replaced once her hubby finds the next pretty face, especially if she has the personality and entitlement you describe. Hopping on the top comment to suggest that you consider therapy. You admit that you are jealous and lonely, and you clearly have resentment towards your family due to bullying and neglect. Now is the time to live your life. Living well is the best revenge, so see if there are avenues to help you with your issues, so that all those bad moments from the past don't intrude on the life you are building for yourself now. Something to consider, OP. Part of therapy may be to go low contact or even no contact with your sister and mother. Seems like you've really struggled with identity issues due to the favoritism. As far as marriage goes, when you find the right person, chances are you will, it will have more substance than your sister's marriage. She seems very materialistic and relies too heavily on physical appearance. But at some point, her looks will fade and or her husband will stop dealing with her entitlement unless she changes. Focus on yourself. Find hobbies to distract you from the BS. As far as your employment goes, making money is great, but you have to ask yourself, is the money worth the stress? If you can say yes, great. Chances are you'll say no and you should seek new employment. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom that I can't wait to move out and leave her with my siblings? This post might run long, but there's some backstory required. So I, female 25, currently live with my parents along with my siblings, female 26 and male 23. None of us pay rent because my parents want us to save up. Both my sister and I have full-time jobs after going to university and have stable careers. My brother was spoiled since he was young and dropped out of college twice and currently works with my dad, meaning he goes to work when he feels like it, once a week and for 1 hour. Other than that, he doesn't do anything in the house and sleeps all day, and neither does my sister. Alongside my mom, I cook and clean for them, since I know how to as I was the only one who moved out for college. My mom or dad don't force them to do anything, so they don't. They don't know how to cook or clean. They also have no plans to move out, whereas I do once I save enough money. I keep trying to tell my parents that they need to force my sister and brother to grow up, and that they can't be so reliant on them for basic necessities that an adult should be able to do for themselves. But my parents are adamant that it's fine. Here's where it got really bad. I was in a work meeting and I was stressed out, and my parents asked me to make dinner for my siblings. And I said I couldn't and that my siblings can easily get dinner started. She said no because my brother was sleeping at 6 p.m. and my sister was at home. I said this is getting too ridiculous and that I can't wait to move out so that my parents can deal with their adult children alone. I told them to not come whine to me when my siblings are 40 and still living at home. I feel terrible because my parents do a lot for me too. but I feel like the Cinderella of this story, and I feel taken for granted because I know how to survive as an adult. Not today, Hall. Your parents needed to hear that. Hopefully it will sink in. Besides, there's a difference between helping your parents who helped you versus slaving for two lazy adult children who haven't done anything for you. Honestly, this is ridiculous. They want you to cook for a 26-year-old and a 23-year-old? Are they toddlers? You are right that your parents are in for a hell of a time once you move out. If they had been under my grandma, she would have kicked them. Start cooking normal meals for you and your parents and kiddie meals for your siblings. Tiny servings of frozen chicken nuggets and chips, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, microwave mac and cheese. And for maximum effect, get them a cheap plastic kiddie meal toy each. Yeah, I'm petty. Not today, home. The truth hurts. You should fast forward your plans to get out of there. Your peace of mind will thank you. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for asking my son on my parents' behalf to stop speaking his native language? I am originally from Egypt, but moved to Sweden after I unintentionally became pregnant while on vacation several years back. My parents were enraged at the news, since I wasn't married to the father of my child, so I decided to separate from them and move to Sweden and married my husband. We now have a son, 15, and our cat. I recently convinced my husband and son to move to Egypt, and things have been a little rough. Our son has been fighting me left and right. One of the main reasons I wanted to move back was because my parents and I have made peace, but they do not want any Swedish spoken in their presence as it isn't their language. My son knows Arabic as a second language, but he refuses to speak it when he doesn't have to, instead speaking in Swedish for most of the time. My parents have told me they don't like it, and I don't like it either. I find it disrespectful and I feel like Sweden isn't part of our lives anymore. So I asked my son if he could stop speaking the language, at least not constantly. He called me Nahal and hasn't spoken to me. I don't want to involve my husband because he's been very stressed lately. I hope someone sees my point of view. Now for the comments. This may be the post that earns A-Hall of the Week. Sweden is all your son has ever known. That's his entire life that you just appended to please your honestly awful parents. Saying that Sweden isn't part of our lives anymore is horrid. The world doesn't revolve around you or your desires. You sound like a narcissistic parent based on those comments, and your complete disregard for your son's emotional state. You're the a-hole. Exactly this. Sweden may no longer be part of your life, but it is very much of your son's life. It is all he has known until you persuaded your family to move to please your parents, who has suddenly had a change of heart and want to know you. Sweden will also be part of her life in the future. Her husband is Swedish. Unless they fully cut contact with his family and all friends from the past 16 years. Pretty sure Sweden will be her son's entire life when he escapes her in 2 to 3 years. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter to go ask her bio family for money? My daughter, 26, is adopted. She started meeting her bio family after she had her son 3 years ago. I never went against her decision to have her bio family in her life. I've always encouraged her to give them a chance, especially her bio mom. But I noticed I was being gradually pushed to the side. Not just me, but the family too. No more Sunday dinners, no more trips, no more pictures, and not even weekly phone calls like we used to have. I figured she was busy being a mom, and she confirmed that, but her Facebook page showed me otherwise. There were tons of pictures of her visiting her bio family, and tons of pictures with my grandson. I realized she was making excuses to skip family time with us to be with her bio family more. Whenever her dad and I brought this up with her, she turned it into an argument in which she'd call us too sensitive or too jealous, or not giving her space to get to know her bio family better. We had one big argument and she never spoke again. After she said no matter how much love and eagerness we show her bio family's love is greater and more natural. She stayed gone for months until her husband Thomas, who's always been struggling with heart condition, gotten worse. He is in the end stage of heart failure and is required to have an LVAD implant, but my daughter cannot afford it. Lately, she's been coming over a lot to talk about Thomas's condition. We do what we can to comfort her, but she brought up the piece of land we have for my 14-year-old son's education. I refused to even have this conversation, but she kept pushing for us to sell the land and help her get the device. I said I was sorry, but that will go to her brother, who sees me and her dad as his parents, and isn't willing to replace us like she did, and then told her to go ask her bio family for the money. She was shocked, and said that she couldn't believe how conditional my love for her was, and that I care more about being petty than my grandson's future with both parents, not a widowed mother. She started crying, calling us insupportive, and that this is the time we show her we're true family, instead of showing conditional love and act petty at her husband's expense. I said I'm sorry about Thomas, but that is all I had to say. She left and we haven't heard from her since then. My husband says Thomas and our grandson are innocent, and maybe we should help out now then settle our conflict later. But that is a lot of money that I feel I'm not obligated to give, even without the whole drama from her bio family. I'm upset, but I don't resent my daughter as she's struggling with a lot. But at this point, I feel like she's only keeping us around for money, given that we paid for many things in the past while her bio family did nothing. Now for the top comments. Not today, Hall. She's the one showing conditional love. And if a bio family's love is greater and more natural, then why aren't they paying? I want to be really petty and say that greater and more natural love wasn't enough for them to keep her and raise her, but I know that's a low blow. At this point, I would not tell the lad to give her money. She has shown that she only wants money now, so it's on her to figure it out. Most states have some form of welfare/social services to help gravely ill people, so she should explore that option. I feel very sad for you and your grandson. You loved her and raised her, and now your relationship has been reduced to a transactional state. She really should be ashamed of herself. Money was the only reason she started speaking to her parents again. She knew that the money existed and wanted to use her parents' love for her as a weak point to get the money for herself/her husband. Like every con artist, she did her groundwork first, pouring on a sob story, getting the parents reinvested in her life. Then she moved on to the con. She hit them with an ultimatum. Give me the kids' college fund or else I will say that your love is conditional. Her father is falling for the con. Fortunately, Mom has recognized that it's daughter's love that's conditional, and that even if they were willing to sacrifice the brother's future to buy her love, it wouldn't work. She's already chosen her bio family. Opie, don't let your husband try to buy her love. You can offer to help her with fundraisers, but that college money is non-negotiable. She won't want your help though. She only wants the cash. You'd end up being without her love and being without money for Son's education too. He shouldn't suffer because his parents fell for his sister's con and sold his future to try buy his sister's love. My father tries to buy my sister's love, and it breaks my heart because she hasn't visited him in 10 plus years and only calls to ask for money and uses her daughter as an excuse. Opie, please don't let your husband buy her love. It will only end up hurting him and you in the long run, while the daughter continues to use and use without any actual love and care in return. I'm very curious about the reason and terms for her adoption, but I've noticed a trend in AITA posts where adopted children find their birth family after they become adults, then ditch the people who raised them. It's quite heartbreaking. Daughter's birth family didn't raise her for a reason. Opie did. Cutting them off and then asking for money is horrible on her part. Not today, Hall. Love is always conditional. Treat someone like dirt and they will stop loving you. Holy crap. That hit me hard for some reason. You're absolutely right. People love to say that it's unconditional, yet it's simply not at the end of the day. This is a tough one, but your daughter seems a bit manipulative and demanding, so not today, home. Or desperate. Or entitled. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my sister her bio family are not on my wedding invite list anymore? I'm 1 of 5 and we're all adopted. Some through foster care, others are infants. My sister was adopted as an infant and reconnected with her bio family 5 years ago. Growing up as the only 2 girls in the family, we were close. And then when she found her bio parents and bio sisters, it all changed. I pulled back a lot when I saw her post about finally having sisters on social media. I ignored her for months. And then when I found the strength to talk to her, I was honest that her attitude around them does hurt me. That being discarded and dismissed as a sister hurt. She apologized, we went to therapy together, and eventually introduced the rest of our family to her bio family. They get invited to family stuff now. And when I got engaged, she asked me if I would invite her bio family. I said sure, if she wanted. That was last year. Wedding isn't for many months yet, so no invites or anything. But my sister started talking about needing a bigger family section, needing to make sure the photographer can get a huge group into more intimate photos. I asked her what she meant. She said with her bio family. I said they weren't being included as family of mine. She told me they should be, but I said no. They were being invited as guests. We then had a fight about it. She accused me of mistreating them. She told me I was rude to them, that I never gave them a chance, and ever resented them for existing. I told her no, but that didn't mean I was going to treat them like they're my family. She told me she would, and now she thinks I should. That I should show I don't hold any feelings about the past and what happened. I told her I wasn't willing to do what she wanted, and she told me that makes me an a-hole because it's not good to make her family feel like outsiders, and it shows a lack of love for her if I'm not willing to accept her family as my family. She sent me a long message afterward telling me they're important to her, and that they will always be her family, will always have that extra special connection to her, and that I need to be okay with that. And that it's on me to make that effort because I had a reaction I did when she first made contact and wrote the post. I considered everything, and decided it would be better off not inviting them at all, because she was never going to let it go. I told her I was no longer inviting them, and she tried to pick another fight with me, but I didn't engage. She told me I was behaving like a child and being an a-hole to her and them. Am I the a-hole? I don't understand her reasoning. Just because those are her bi family and she's close with them, it doesn't automatically make them your family. You already have your siblings and your parents. She really thinks your bi parents are now your second set of parents? If her bi family are reasonable people, there is no way they'd be insulted or upset for not being included in the family pictures. They're being invited to one of the biggest events in your life. That is definitely not considered being mistreated. Info, how old is your sister? She needs to grow up, and do it fast. What on earth is wrong with these people? If I was a part of OP's sister's bi family, I'd be ashamed of this behavior. Is she forgetting that they're her bi family, but not yours? And to take this one step farther, if her bi parents are now your second set of parents, shouldn't they help foot the bill for the wedding? She clearly is not done working through some things related to being adopted. Adopted kid who is in touch with my own bi family here. While important to her, this is not her wedding. That she is making this a larger deal, and sounds likely to cause a commotion at your actual wedding, you are well within your rights to decide to no longer invite them. This also seems like a large number of people you will also be paying for to make your sister happy. Definitely not a home. Honestly, with all the horror stories of adopted kids who find their bi family, the ones that gave them away, and suddenly decide that the parents and siblings who were there from the beginning are now somehow less important just because they don't share DNA, would put a lot of people off of adopting. Your sister's bi family is her bi family, not yours. And she shouldn't be berating you into giving them any role in your wedding than any other guest should get. There is a whole TikTok world of adoptees talking crap on their adoptive parents and saying adoption should never exist. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my cousin she doesn't get to call my wife a terrible mother when she had abandoned her child years ago? Alright, I'm gonna get right to it, folks. Yesterday I went over to my mother's house to talk about the accident that happened with my 3-year-old, who tripped off the stairs and injured his knee while I was at work. He's fine, nothing serious, but my mother was freaking out and wanted me to tell her what happened in details. The family was there, so I explained what happened, and my female cousin then chimed in and said, "Oh my god, where the hell was this boy's mother? Was she even home?" I said she was, but was in the kitchen when he fell and couldn't prevent it. My cousin then leaned back and said, "How could she? I cannot imagine leaving my 3-year-old unattended for so long. What a terrible mother your wife is, honestly." I'm fuming at this point, so I look at her and ask if she is serious, and she gives me the most dense look I've ever seen. I told her she had no right to call my wife a terrible mother after she, my cousin, abandoned her kids in foster care years ago. She looks at me grudgingly and tells me that that was years ago when she was too young and not ready to be a mother. Besides, her parents made her give away her son. But I told her that is when she failed as a mother, because she essentially didn't fight for her kid and abandoned him so easily. She lashed out at me saying her circumstances were difficult then, and I could not blame her. But if she's to commit to be a mom, which she will in the future, she's 22 by the way, she will step up and parent her kids, which is something my wife needs to be doing instead of spending time in the kitchen for her internet clout. We argued back and forth, and she ended up leaving the room crying after I said she's a failure of a mother if she thinks my wife is terrible then. My mother berated me for my unnecessary cruelty and having a habit of bringing up my cousin's unpleasant past to win an argument. I said that wasn't true, as she was insulting my wife's motherhood, but my mother agreed my wife was being neglectful towards our son, and that she needed to focus less on her Facebook blogs and more on family. I ended up arguing with her too, then left. My wife got involved in the argument, after my mother called her to berate her and told her to tell me to apologize to my cousin for what I said. Now for the comments. Not today, home, but going forward you need to put your family on an information diet. Your mother does not need to know every bump and bruise, and even bigger injuries don't have to be detailed for her. There was a small accident, everybody's fine is enough. If there's truly an issue with your wife needing to be more diligent with your child's care, that is something that needs to be addressed, but your mother doesn't need to have any part in that. I'm glad your kiddo is going to be okay. I love info diet. My mother's on that. All answers, everyone is fine, school is good, and they're all doing well. How are you doing? Then she'll talk about herself. She's an arc and lives that. She gets no info to use against me or my family later. I cut her off for about 6 months, and it was hard on my dad. So now it's very much info diet with low contact. It's working so far. Your cousin is a hypocrite. And kids are fast. I can't even pee without hearing a crash from something my 4-year-old did. Not today, home. There are a few people in here suggesting a baby gate. My now 4-year-old completely destroyed every baby gate we had, even the ones nailed it to the walls, at just 2 years old. If it works for you, great. Some kids have Herculean strength though. It's like the child-proof medicine bottles that kids can open but adults can't. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband he overreacted over a piece of cake? Hi. So my husband, male 32, and I, female 24, are expecting our first baby together. I'm 7 months in. My in-laws are lovely people. My mother-in-law had some not-so-major fights with her husband, and has been staying with us for a few days. Her birthday was yesterday, and because of her emotional and mental state, my husband decided to throw her a surprise party and invite his siblings. He got everything ready, and I was home alone when the cake arrived from the bakery. To give some info, the cake was big and had my mother-in-law's favorite flavor, strawberry. I asked my husband for some snack as I was craving really badly, but he didn't get them. To be honest, I got a bit tempted whenever I looked at the cake, and decided to cut a small piece of it. I didn't think it was a big deal, until my husband saw it and flipped out asking why I ruined the cake and cut a piece of it. I said I was sorry, but was craving something sweet. He said that was supposed to be his mother's birthday cake, and I embarrassed him by taking a piece of it instead of waiting till the party in just a few hours. I said I should have been the one to handle it if he didn't think I was up to the task, but he went off saying he couldn't believe how childish I was with zero impulse control, to be blaming him instead of checking myself and not being supportive. This made me upset because there were a ton of other stuff he asked me to do and I did it. He kept arguing, saying I just cost him the piece of cake, and an utter embarrassment when his mom sees that I ate from her cake. I looked at him and told him he overreacted over a piece of cake, and asked if a piece of cake was more important than his son, and that I was sure his mom will understand that I took my piece of cake in advance because I really couldn't help myself. But he said this wasn't about me, that I have to just admit I messed up and ruined his work, then went upstairs. I refused to come off the room to celebrate after he told me to stay there, and I explained to his mom what happened, and she didn't say anything, though I noticed she was bothered. He keeps telling me to apologize, otherwise he won't speak to me nor acknowledge my presence in the house. Ask if a piece of cake was more important than his son. Stop trying to manipulate him. Your unborn son did not want the cake. You did. You know good and well that if someone cut a piece of your birthday cake before you even got a chance to see it, you would have a fit. You're the a-hole. For real. That line bothered me the most as it was such a stretch and 100% manipulative. Also, is Opie 5-year-old? Who just can't control themselves around birthday cake, and doesn't understand how bad of etiquette it is to take a piece before the person celebrating their birthday even gets to see it. Opie owes some apologies. During my 8.5 months of pregnancy so far, and all of my cravings, I've never once thought of myself before others. Waking my boyfriend at 2 a.m. for ice cream, eating someone's cake before the event, etc. And my baby is fine and healthy. The fact that Opie attempted to manipulate her husband and guilt him is disgusting. You're the a-hole big time. Reminds me of the Opie who ate the cake her significant other specifically made for her to eat, and into Denise's birthday caterpillar cake because, tee-hee, the baby wanted cake. Girl, please. Your greedy, selfish self wanted cake and decided that your wants and needs come before everyone else. Being pregnant doesn't mean your crap doesn't suddenly stink. Honey, you tripping if you think you are not the a-hole here. Apologize and be done with us. Your husband is absolutely right. You lack impulse control and you not only embarrass him, you embarrassed yourself.